I get emotional, when I talk about the Holocaust. I didn't lose anybody because we are not Jewish family, but a lot of friends. I remember we had a friend of my parents who was a director of the big bank in Paris. And one day I was walking and I saw him kneeling in front of the bank on a sidewalk. And there was a car standing by, and in a car was his wife and the children. And he was on his knee begging Gestapo not to shoot his family in front of him, right there in front of the bank, to take him, do whatever he wanted with him, but save his children. And that proud man on a knee, I never forget this. It was awful.
The constant threat of Adolf Hitler's reign of Nazi terror made such atrocities a part of daily life for Helena Zuber.
I still have nightmares. I still sometimes dream that Gestapo is coming after me, and I wake up sweating and stuff like that. And then I said, no, it's not that bad. I am free. I am all right. And I always feel I still have a, scar here, which I can feel it. And I said, I am all right.
For 65 years, Helena has lived with that scar. A scar that once harbored a tattoo, branding her as a prisoner in a German concentration camp. But it's the emotional scars that cut far deeper.
One time when I was very sick and very hungry in a camp, and I said, well, what's going to happen to me? So I said, God, if you let me survive and I will leave this camp, I pledge to you that I will do whatever I can to do something for the Jewish people, because they suffer so much. And that will be my promise.
To fulfill her promise, Helena vowed to spread the word of the Holocaust, sharing her message with students at local schools.
Hello, everybody. This is Ms. Helen Zuber.
This is her amazing story.
I am not a hero of any kind. I was a young girl at 16 when all the, as they said in English, hell broke loose, and things start to happen, which I wasn't aware of it. Sometimes I didn't expect it, and I didn't understand what was going on.
Born in Vienna, Austria, Helena was the oldest of two girls. Her father was a science professor at the University of Vienna. In 1940, at the height of German occupation in Europe, 16-year-old Helena graduated from a convent in Paris and was immediately recruited by one of the nuns to work for an underground organization in support of the French resistance.
She told me that she thought I was quite mature for my age, and also that she thought I was a good-tempered person, and I might be useful to some kind of organization. I said, Mother, I am just a kid. I just graduated from high school. I was doubtful that they could use me, but we know how oppressive this government is, and living under constant fear of being, prosecuted or even displaced by the Hitler. So I said, okay. And so that was the beginning, very next day of my career in a secret organization.
Her first assignment was to observe and report on the mighty German armies stridently marching through the streets of downtown Paris.
I noticed, for instance, that how many Gestapo were and how they were dressed and what the insignia they were wearing. There were different branches of military marching, all very elegantly dressed in new uniforms and clean shoes and all shaved and shining and, and Heil Hitler and all that stuff. It was very impressive, and people had to stand in lines on the sidewalks and watch that. That was order. So you had no choices. If you were on the street, you had to do it. Because this is one way to intimidate the citizens. Right away, you have a feeling that you are helpless and overwhelmed by this avalanche of military. So I gave her all the information I could remember. And apparently I did a pretty good job on it because she was very happy. So they moved me from that assignment to another one when I work with two young men. And we were watching the cabaret when the French girls were performing. And there was a lot of German officers. They like entertainment. They like women, especially young ones and good looking. And the French girls were very free with their charms, so to speak. So we were watching who got in, who got out, who went upstairs, which light went on. The French girls were fully collaborating with Gestapo, and they were mostly Gestapo officers, and they were doing pretty well what they want to do. Even military was scared of Gestapo. Later on, I was transferred again, and my mission was to help Jewish children, to spirit them away from the halfway house, from the safe houses, to the people who were going to smuggle them out of the country. And that took place in a park. I was young, and I was wearing nursing uniform, and then suddenly these three little kids came out, and they were yelling my name in French, Helen, Helen, and they were running to me like they knew me. So that was my signal that I am to receive them. So I got up from the bench where I was sitting, and I put my arms out, and I said to them, hello, and I hugged them. But they were holding my hands like it was no tomorrow. My mission was to bring the children to that place, and somebody will pick them up from there. And that was the end, and I never see them again. Very often, you have to make a quick choices how to act. And that's very important because, your life is at stake every day. This little boy came, and he was very small for his age. I thought he was about 4 years old, but maybe he was older. And very lovely child, and there was something so cute about him, but he had a quite prominent Jewish nose. And he was so darling, and I just took an instant liking to this little boy. And he told me that his name was Jack. Jacques, je suis Jacques. And he was always saying, je vous aime beaucoup, like this, real cute. And I said, okay, Jack, but, that nose we have to take care of it. And so somebody must to put something in my briefcase or whatever I had with me, and it was a hat, like a baseball hat. So I put this on his head, so that will shade his face, And then I said, Jacques, when you see the German soldiers looking at you, I said, you call my name and yell that you need to blow your nose. And he did. And that's happened very shortly after I told him that. So I knelt in front of him, and I put a handkerchief right on his nose, and I said to him quietly, and I said, just try to blow, and like this, So he was doing this like this. He said, okay, and I said, and we were working very hard. So the Germans sort of laughed, and, oh, hi Hitler, and they left. So he said, is that enough? And I said, yes, that's enough, And Well, anyway, I had a special feeling for that little boy, but unfortunately, I never saw him again.
Helena's next assignment was working in the Polish ghettos in Warsaw. The living conditions were deplorable, and the threat of death was constant.
They had to put us in the sewer because to go through the other sewer system to the other part of Warsaw, because they blew up very often. I almost lost my life there. The first time it was very benign. They just ask you, they even call you Fräulein, and they ask you if you were a schoolgirl or what you're doing and stuff like that in general. So you just, they were shooting this question at me. There were two of them, and I just was making funny faces, pretending I don't understand. So one said to the other, let her go, she's not very bright. I said, thank you, Lord, a little prayer right there. So they let me go. The second time, when they got me after, I don't know, a couple months maybe, they showed me the album with the pictures. They looked at me to see if I recognize anybody. Well, of course, I just shook my head. I didn't have to speak. I just said that I didn't know anybody. But the third time, they got me. And there was a huge, very long train, and they just crammed us as many as possible. And before we know, the motor started, whatever, and we were going east. The first thing came to my mind is how will I notify my parents that they took me? Because when you go for interrogation, you never know if you return home or go to the jail or whatever. Sometimes you have the family divided right there in front of you, and they never see each other until liberation, if they survive. You were praying that you won't contract anything because you were squashed like sardines in this cattle train, and you couldn't see anything. And we were in that train in Germany for either 2 days and 2 nights. People who had no food, no water, nothing. And so many of us, and some people were sick. A woman went in labor. All kinds of, somebody had a heart attack, anxiety attack, hysterical attack, name it, and they had it. We couldn't do anything about that. And if you say that somebody is dead, they said, leave it. And when the train stopped next time, throw them through they will open the door and throw them out.
Helena was transported to 3 different camps. The last was Oberlangen, where she spent 2.5 years of hardship and starvation.
When we came to this camp, this is the first time we had a doctor checking us out. And this doctor, in particular, asked in German if you had any infectious disease and stuff like that. If you pretend you don't understand, you don't answer, then he will ask you if you are in a good health, and that was enough. So you said, jawohl. That's mean yes. Because otherwise they will put you right away. We thought that they can kill you right away, And he told me in German, so he figured out that somehow I will understand. He said, you are young and healthy. If you want to survive, volunteer for any kind of details outside the camp. So you will spend minimum time among the other people, and you will understand after a few days why I am giving you this advice. So I said, should I listen to him? Or was he giving me just a quick way to be exterminated? And I decided I will try because I had nothing to lose, really. In April in 1945, we were on a detail harvesting the peat moss, and suddenly the German soldiers who were guarding us, there was a small group, like about 5 people, And they told us to get schnell to the camp right away. And they came and the guards locked us up, so we couldn't leave the barracks. We had no idea what was going on. We had a kind of noise and shooting and everything, but we had no idea what was going on. And then suddenly there was a terrific crash and the lights went out. One of the girls said, well, there is something going on and I don't care about what you do, but I am breaking the glass, even if they kill me now, but I'm breaking the glass and I'm going to see what's going on.
British forces, along with the 1st Canadian Army, had come to liberate them at Oberlangen.
And we saw something very unusual. There was a big monster. We had no idea what it was. That was a tank. And that cover flipped like this. And we could see the hand with a crucifix and a stole of the priest wear, in a purple. So that's mean clergy of some kind. So people start to, since we were open the door, start to go out and just to see what's going on. And they were shouting something, but we couldn't understand what they were shouting. And he said, you are free. The Germans are gone. Electricity is out, but they will repair it rightly. And you are free. We stood there like a dumb bunnies and we couldn't understand what's mean being free because we were afraid. We had no idea where we were. We didn't know which day of the week was or anything. Probably the day afterwards, when I was sitting trying to figure out what to do with myself, I couldn't go any place, had no money, no clothing, no shoes, nothing. And I said, well, my gosh, what's going to happen to us? And this soldier came by and he said, if there is anything you would like, tell me, maybe I can get this for you. And I said, you know what, when we were still not free, I was dreaming about loaf, those little loaves of bread, so I could have one for myself and I don't need to share with anybody. And I said, that's selfish, but that's what I was dreaming about. And he said, well, we will see what we can do about that. And he walked away. He came back later with a big sack, and there were several little loaves of bread, which he requisitioned at the German bakery, and he brought this, and he gave it me one, and he said, this is just for you. And I couldn't eat it. I started crying. I was so moved. He kept looking at me and he said, you been ever to England? And I said, only as a baby, because I don't remember anything. And he said, you remind me of somebody. And he asked me again and again, and he was always there somewhere. And I said, what's, he's just sticking like a glue. I didn't like him at all. He was nosy and asking questions. And finally he came to me, he said, Lennox 8, London, and that's my uncle's official residence. So he figured out that I was connected with my uncle because I resemble him. Next day, there was a big commotion in a camp, and somebody said that Field Marshal Montgomery is coming. And the war was still on, and you could hear the shooting about 5 miles from the camp where we were. There were these tall, 6'3", young, good-looking guys, very straight and very properly dressed and everything, except they have insignia but no medals.
One Canadian officer in particular caught her attention.
And we were standing watching, and I said, well, he had a 3 stars, so he was a captain. And I said, he's kind of cute. And one of the girls said to me in French, there's nothing wrong with you if you can tell that, or something like that, really cute, And I said, well, he's nice looking. actually, I saw my death certificate. I went to Vienna in 1960, and the first time after I saw my parents, and last time I saw them was 1943. So I was living in Detroit, I was married already, and my mother didn't recognize me. That was a heartbreaking, because my hair is different color, and I changed physically. I was wounded and I had a lot of scar on me and a number on my right here. It was very lovely reunion, but my mother couldn't believe it, that how I look and how I change, because she remembered me happy-go-lucky young girl. There is one girl at Publix, and she said, Mrs. Zuber, why do you always get tears in your eyes when you get this bread? You always get this little bread, So I had to tell her the story. So now she said she looked at the bread in a different way. Yeah. I survived. I don't know why, really. I don't feel that I am a very exceptional person. It's just I was at the right place at the right time. My role was very minute, but that's what I am trying to embed in a people's mind the true story about the Holocaust, because I am eyewitness to that. And when you go to Auschwitz and see this mountain of the Jews, nobody talks about that, but the fact is that took place.
This diminutive woman, who stood less than 5 feet tall, is a hero and a giant humanitarian.
Oh boy, you are a tall one.
Yeah.
Well, you are very welcome.
You touched him.
Mm-mm.
But it's a good thing. You got your point across.
Well, so that means the message is going.
The
message is going around.
That's right.
Your
And
purpose.
that makes me happy.
And they will pass it on.
Yeah. My pastor, he said, if you had a choice to change your life, would you change anything at all on your past? And I look at her and said, not a thing. I paid the price, but I'm very happy.